Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
What is re-immersion? Re-immersion is basically generating a report that exports data that was already loaded to the workspace from several sources and harmonized in a certain way, and loading it back to a new data stream. Confusing, right? That's why I'm taking out a report and again putting it back. Basically, what happens is why re-immersion is used. Re-immersion is used in the cases whereby we have a scenario or a situation where we have. When I am talking of re-immersion by default from now onwards, I am talking of 100 data streams together. 100 data streams are always, this is like a what do we call it? Like hypothesis. We have taken it as a hypothesis that is there. When I talk of data streams, you consider it as 100 data streams. When we have data streams together in a certain workspace, which can be of similar source, which can be of different source, right? Suppose you have Facebook data and you have 100 data streams of Facebook coming in. You did a certain level of harmonization using calculated dimensions or whatever, because calculated dimension is one of the easiest ones to do. Maybe you have performed harmonization on it. Now what happened is you have used a visualization tool from the visualize option in Datorama. And what you've done is you have visualized it. And you have a parent-child done in your data stream that your classification sheet can show up all the sub values or the sub the classified values to the major streams and everything. You have done that. You can do that. You have done that. And now you've put it to visualize. And I changed my date from 21st June to 27th June. What happened? All the harmonizations start working on the fly, start calculating on the fly. All my custom dimensions start calculating on the fly according to the date of 27. And always remember, it works as a compiler. It goes, sequentially. And then what happens is it gets to the visualization. Now this visualization guy, when this is happening in the background and 100 data streams are processing the harmonization, this guy is sitting quietly, which means the loading screen. And if this passes around 20, 25, 30 seconds, not only you have lost your audience's interest, not only you have lost your end user's interest, not only you have lost on your data loading, but also you have crashed your widget. Because what happens is when such heavy load of data is passed in without any sort of harmonization, what tends to happen is the widget failing, and the widget fails happily. Nothing is there. Now think this is, I'm talking of a channel Facebook only. I'm talking of a channel Facebook only where you are facing this kind of a scenario, right? Now think you have other channels like display search, research, display, social programmatic. Maybe you have, further when you work on your Further, when you work on your media cost center, you will be working on planned and actuals data. Correct. You can perform you will have loads of data streams that are coming in, loads of harmonizations that are happening. But if this is the scenario, then what is the end goal? Like, what is the end result of it? What? Like every widget keeps on loading and finally nothing comes out of it. It is not something that is desirable. Right. We don't want that to happen. There comes re-immersion. What re-immersion tells us is you have these many data streams that are coming up. Let's do something. Let's finalize on what all dimensions and measurements you actually need for yourself. You don't need all the data. We have this tendency, and this is not a very good tendency that I feel it. This is a very personal opinion and a personal comment that I see that a person pulling a report from search, say Google Ads or say display, DCM, sorry, and programmatic DV36 report, what they do is they check in everything and pulls everything and keeps everything. But users what? Only campaigns, media by impressions, clicks, media calls. And then why are you making your file unnecessarily data heavy? People do have one more comment to that. That is called, I'm keeping it for historical data. Now, historical data is already there. Whenever you want to pull your report, you can get it. But today you are making your report unnecessarily heavy, be it Excel, be it any of the BI tools that you use, be it anywhere. Always try to keep those many dimensions and measurements that you need. Historical data is already there because you are not changed. Like nothing is changing, but what is happening is your concurrent reporting becomes slow, becomes a bit redundant. And you face certain issues while with loading, with maintenance and re-emergence. Re-emergence is completely a tool for maintenance of your work for a longer run. What re-emergence does? Re-emergence tells that please finalize your dimensions and metrics that you are using. Now, what it does is and on the very first day of KDU, whatever goes out from the drama, what it does is it tells us that pull out all the dimensions and measurements from re-emergence from your data streams and then feed it back. While feeding back, what we do is we feed back only the dimensions. And what happens is we do a parent-child relationship with the re-emergence stream and the data stream that we have as a native data stream and the re-emergence stream. Correct. What happens in that scenario is now my dimensions are already there in a placeholder. While mapping back, we don't map back the measurements. When we are taking things out of data, we are taking it out via take it out via reports. But what we are interested in is dimensions, because we want to avoid all these calculated dimensions, all these harmonizations. And basically, I guess this is clear now, right? That harmonizations and all these things that we have read about harmonizations happens only to dimensions. Apart from calculated measurements, nothing basically applies to measurements. It's always the dimensions, correct, and measurement aligns to the harmonized dimension or whatever harmonizations we do. In re-emergence, what we are doing is we are pulling data out of Datorama by means of a report. In that report, we are taking out all the dimensions and metrics that are important to us from our Facebook data streams. Now 100 data streams are there definitely. But what am I using from those 100 data streams? It will be media, by key media, by name, campaigns, campaign name, or few other dimensions that are coming in, and measurements. Right. What we are interested is taking out all the dimensions, out, and then feeding it back to data. While taking out, we also take it out along with the measurements. That was my question. We take it out along with measurements because we want to have all the data coming out. And that the measurements are there when we are pulling out the dimensions. And if we don't pull in measurements, what happens is we may have a data loss. That's why it is recommended that don't use only one measurement, but use at least two measurements. That if there is some zeros or something in an impression, we have another measurement of clicks which comes as a backup, that we don't have any dimension data loss. We take it out, and what we do is we feed it back again, but while feeding it back as a new data stream, we are not mapping the measurements, that is impressions or clicks. Why again? Because it is the same data that we took out and we are feeding back, right? If we may map the measurements, what happens is my impressions and clicks doubles up. Before it was 2, and when I feed back as a new data stream and everything, it becomes 4. Despite of whatever you do and whatever you're not. We will come to that while we see what is actually happening in there. And there are 2 types in which we can do all the immersions. But let's see what happens. What and why is the immersion used? The immersion is used when several sources require a unified classification across too many data streams, channels to be configured and maintained manually in mapping. When trying to solve a query, performance issues due to calculated objects. When we have query performance issues and calculated objects which are basically trying to solve query performances, we use a immersion. Recommended when using vlookup IUP to avoid the reprocess historical data when the classification changes. We don't need to, whenever we use vlookup IUP, what happens again? This is another case which happens on the flight. We always try to avoid forget vlookup U. For any kind of mapping formulas that you use an extract, you use something. What happens is when the data processes, it tends to reprocess entirely, and it reprocesses the historical data. It reprocesses the current data, and basically it affects the loading time and creates a hindrance. What are the pros and cons of data of re-immersion? Pros are used to bypass some of the limitations of the previous solutions. That is harmonizations, whatever we saw. For better maintenance abilities where there are mapping formulas used in large amount of stream. That was what I was hinting at, that wherever you are using mapping formulas or calculated formulas, the immersion comes handy. For better maintenance abilities when there's a need for reprocessing of data once the classification sheet or changes or the logic changes. Whenever things now you have used a data classification and used and you have used a 1 second. Say suppose you have a classification sheet, and then you have used your harmonizations to happen on that the classification is implemented. Now tomorrow, and you have done it based on your calculated measurement, dimensions, and then parent, child, and all those things. Now tomorrow, when the classification sheet changes, what happens is you need to again work on your dimensions and calculated dimension formulas and patterns, everything. Because you don't have data classification, of course, because there's where you will upload your classification sheet. What happens is it becomes very difficult, and it becomes very tedious, and it becomes very cumbersome and time consuming for you to do work on these. Rather than that, if we have all the dimensions segregated, and we will see how what we will do is life becomes pretty easy for us. And when you see it, you will feel that it is pretty easy. I'm just hyping it like it's very important and it's very hard to understand and stuff. But I know you guys will understand. When I show it to you in Datadrama, what are the cons? Cons is when a re-immersion data stream includes measurements. It adds to the row count of the workspace. Not only that, but also it doubles up the thing. Say suppose you have impression clicks for your data stream. Now parent data stream, which was supposed to only contain dimensions, because we want to use a re-immersion that the dimensions are in a placeholder and we don't calculate them on the fly. We try to do that. But what happens is we have by mistake mapped the measurements. By mapping the measurements, your impression was 2 previously. It was supposed to be 2 only, right? What we are doing is we are doing we are making our life easy. That's it. But what happens is you have mapped your measurement again and it becomes 4. That is a con, and then adds a step which tends to be maintained while making changes to the investigating data. Technically, setting up data re-immersion consists of 3 steps. Generate a Datorama report containing all the relevant data. Use the above report to create a new data stream that was supposed to be new. It is a view missing in there. And schedule the above report that it is fed to the relevant data stream automatically. Re-immersion as a scaling tool for mapping formula classifications. When multiple data streams require a uniform classification using mapping formulas, it can be really cumbersome. Every data stream has, 5 or 6 clauses that you need to use a data, a distant count, find the country, do an extract function, look it up, do a classification. If that happens, what happens is using mapping formulas or using calculated formulas or calculated dimensions. What happens is it becomes very cumbersome to maintain the logic separately for all the data streams. Rather, what happens is re-immersion helps us. What is a better option to generate a Datorama report containing fields necessary for classification? Re-merging the above report into the data stream. Apply the classification logic into the mapping and then use parent-child data fusion cross-channel entities to do the classification. I hope by now you've understood theoretically. Practically, we will take it up. But theoretically, I guess you are, understand like what are we going to do? We will do it, but what do? We create a report. We pull out all the dimensions. We remerge the report back as a new data stream and then apply a classification logic like parent, child may be with the original data set. That these dimensions now act as placeholders from which the data is fetched rather than calculated on the fly like a calculated dimension. Remergent to optimize widget performance when a large amount of calculated measurement and dimensions are used in several widgets. It's a grammatical error again. Are used in several widgets on the same page. They can hinder the performance. And that's what we have discussed. We use a remergent to export specific views of calculated values and map them with the native measurements. With doing, we have created newly created native measurements are referenced in widgets. No calculations will be made behind, and this drastically improves performance. Here we have two data streams. Think of it as 100 data streams. But I've taken an example. I'm taking an example rather of two data streams, Facebook 1 and Facebook 2. This is, I guess, Facebook 1. This is Facebook 1. And then I have another data set called Facebook 2. Now think as 100 data streams like this coming in and you creating what you need to classify, say, your media by name, whereby the first position gives you camels. A second position gives you dates. Third position gives you brand, country names, country codes. And the fourth position gives you the media by dimensions or the placement size or the media by size that has been displayed. These are the four things you need to classify for 100 data streams. What will you do? What is the ideal way you want to these four will be dimensions, right? These four will be separate dimensions. What will be your approach of doing it? Patterns. When you say patterns, say suppose by chance or media by names are not aligning. What will you do? Multiple patterns. Sometimes we need to do it. And then if something goes missing, that will be another challenge altogether. Patterns is one of the solutions that you do and you create a harmonized dimension. And then you work accordingly. Now, tomorrow, what happens is your logic changes and they have added something more to the media buy. And then what you do is so all your patterns have to be updated. If not, it is updated right. Good that we have learned patterns correctly. But if someone is thinking of a calculated dimension, then think hundreds of calculated dimensions you have made, and tomorrow there is a taxonomy level change. That will be something which is not at all desirable, and we don't want that scenario to happen to us. What we will do is we will do a let's re-immersion. What we will do is we will first upload the data. Wait, we will first upload the data and we have done it. We have the first stream and the second stream. Let's look at the mapping if you want to. Pretty easy stuff, right? We have these columns over here. This was the one. No, I guess. Let me duplicate. These are the two data streams that I have mapped. Days map to day, campaign ID to campaign, key campaign name to campaign name, media by key, media by name, impressions, clips. Pretty simple. The second one is also like that. Now just think that your 100 of data streams are mapped correctly. Now your mapping is done. What was the next step that we have discussed? That we need to. What do we need to take out of Datorama? Now we are interested in classifying the media by names, right? What we are interested is the first position, the second position, the third and the fourth position. Now we need to understand that when we are classifying the media by name column, whatever harmonized dimension, these four will become harmonized dimensions. Think from a perspective of a pattern. If I will put this in pattern and my structure compliance is there, what will happen is there will be four positions and these four will have separate names like campaign name, year, country and dimension. And these four will be usable separately, correct? These will be harmonized dimensions, right? Now, what will these become then? What entity is this first position? This first position, which is camp 2, what entity is it a part of? It is a part of the media by entity, right? Because it is coming from media by name. If tomorrow, if there is a column, which is a campaign, which contains a camp, what is it a camp? What is it part of? It is part of the media by entity because it is classified from media by name. And then what does this become? This becomes a media by custom attribute. If tomorrow we have four columns, all these four columns are attributes of the media by key because it comes from the media by name. What next? Now we know that this is a media by attribute. These are media by attributes which needs to be calculated. What I know is if I take out my media by key media by name, campaign idea and campaign name because these are the dimensions involved. Now for all my 100 data streams, now I know that media by name is something that needs to be classified. And in case there was something like if I need to classify campaign name or something, there was campaign attributes. Then the campaigns. If I take out media by name, campaign ID and campaign name, what will happen is we need to, because why do we need to take it out? because the end result that we want is these 4 columns coming in, correct? And these 4 columns are part of the media by key or the media by name or the media by attribute. We will take these columns out and then feed it back and see what happens. Now, how do we take out data from Datorama? By means of reports, correct. What have we taken out of Datorama? We took Facebook. Re-Immersion is the name, format is Excel, and we took out media by key, media by name, campaign key, and campaign name out of Datorama. And we have taken impressions and clicks because that we don't lose any form of data. And whenever there is any measurement along with dimensions, like any measurement is there along with dimensions, what tends to happen is all our dimensions will report back. Or else, if we have already only taken the dimensions, firstly, it is not a correct way to pull. It is always recommended that you pull it along with any measurement that you don't have fear of data loss. And also it is recommended that you take 2 measurements because if one measurement in some row has a 0, it might be that that row is not reported. If you have 2 measurements, might be that if impression is 0 for a row, clicks will have values. Clicks will be my point whereby I get that row reported. Else if it is 0, then it won't be. We need 2 measurements and we need to set my date range. And what we need to do is we need to put the data stream filters because I need this report in accordance to the 2 data streams, right? From Facebook ARM1 and Facebook RM2 I want. Think it of as you have 98 more data streams in there in your report filter. In the data stream filter, what we are doing is for 100 filters, we are pulling a report whereby we want to take out media by key, media by name, campaign key, and campaign name with impressions and clicks. I guess it is not that difficult. Save and run. Save and run. It has the run. I guess this is the report. Let's download. This is the report that came out of Datorama. What do we see over here? We see the media by key media, by name campaign, key campaign, name impressions, and clicks for both my data streams. Right. How do I validate Facebook data 134, 56 media by data to have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 20? Missing and my report has 1. It's half a lot. But then it has from 1 to 12 media by keys, along with media by name campaign, key campaign name, impression, clicks. This was the report that I pulled, right? Facebook Re-Immersion impression clicks media by key name campaign, key campaign name. And these are the 2 data streams, right? RM1 and RM2 that we have uploaded the 2 data streams earlier. And when we pull the data report, it looks like this, right? Now I have all my dimensions and metrics consolidated together. Now, what is the next step? The next step is to feed this report back to Datorama. Correct. When we feed this back, we know that this will be media by key. This will be media by name. This will be campaign key. This will be campaign name impression skills. Correct. Let's feed this report back to Datorama. For time constraints, what I have done is I have uploaded the data. I have uploaded the report to Datorama. and this is my FBO1 for FBM2. Let's look at FBO1. Hey, sorry. This is my original dataset, right? What we'll do is we'll now feed back the re-immersion dataset or the report which is fed. This is my report when I'm creating the new data stream. This is basically my report. As discussed, we see that campaign key is mapped to campaign key. Campaign key is mapped to campaign key. Campaign name to campaign name. Media by name. Clicks and impressions. As we have mentioned that we won't be mapping clicks and impressions when we are feeding back this report to Datorama because of two factors. One is it will double up the impression and clicks, and also it will take unnecessary rows into consideration. Now, once we have mapped this for what is our intention or what is it that we are? What is it that we want to achieve out of this re-immersion stream? We need to achieve this right. We need to extract these four things from media by what we do is we take a media by custom attribute. Then how do you take it? Go over here. You take a media by custom attribute and over here, if something you want to map from left side, you can do that. Or else, if you want to, write a formula or something, you can use it as a formula and your new formula editor. What you can do is you can write a formula. If we want to write a formula for this, what we will use is, as we want to use an extract function. We know that if we write an extract, we have this over here in my extract function. We need to declare the text, which is nothing but my media by name. The delimiter, as we know, is underscores. We will define the delimiter as underscore. And for position 1, we basically, the index in Datorama starts from 0. For 1, it will be 0. For 2, it will be 1. For 3, it will be 2. And for 4, it will be 3. For the first position, we need to declare it as position 0. And we need to hit a save. And once you save it, your custom media by looks like this. See this. This is basically the column that I created. I'll just unmap it because I already have it in my data. The first position basically is 0. You see the first one is 0. The second one is 1. Third one is 2. The fourth one is 3. Now what we are doing is we are extracting the data in the Datorama Re-Immersion stream and not in the native stream. Are you getting what we were doing previously? We were previously using formula in my FBARM1. Correct. Previously, before re-immersion, what we would have done, we would have used the extract function in here. But now what we are doing is we are using the extract function in the re-immersion data stream that I am feeding it back and not in the native data stream. And what we will do is we have achieved what we want to do and we will hit a save. Now comes logic. Now I have this data set along with me. If I will go ahead. Now if I have I have this re-immersion data set created. if you see the number of rows processed as 0. Why 0? Because it doesn't have any metric and it's only a dimensions data set. Now, if I want to see the now, if I look into this and if I tend to, just like if you can think logically, a bit logically, media by custom attribute. 4 is nothing but my campaign name column. Once I pivot it, right? Because it is extracting what 0 position. 0 position is what campaign name. 0 position is campaign name, right? In the 0 position. It is extracting the campaign name in the Datorama column media by custom attribute 4. Now, if I place impressions beside this column, will it show up? This is basically a bucket that we have created. This bucket now contains whatever we need, but this bucket doesn't have any connection to the measurements because we didn't map measurements in the stream, right? We need to make a connection between this re-immersion stream and my native stream. That is Facebook one. And the connection is a parent-child relationship. Why we will use a parent-child? Because parent-child in parent-child. If I make this re-immersion, the parent of my child, which is this, what happens is it basically inherits because this now acts as a classification data. We will use a parent and what it will do is the measurements will inherit the properties of the parent and show up the data. We will go to FB1. And basically it is not done for FBRAM1 but FBRAM2 as well. For FBRAM1 and FBRAM2, what we will do is we will keep the parent data stream to be Facebook re-immersion. Why I kept this is because of my second process, just to show you how data comes up. I have done the Facebook re-immersion too, but like ideally in a situation, ideally for doing re-immersion. Now what you will do is for your ARM1 and ARM2. This Facebook re-immersion that we have just created will be the parent understood. Why one parent for two child? We have seen, right? Remember that slide that we had seen and we told that a parent can have multiple child and the child inherits the properties of the parent. It's the same way now because RM1 and RM2. RM1 and RM2 both have media by name that needs to be classified and campaign year, country and dimension needs to be classified for both the things. Now we have taken out the dimensions of both the data streams in my re-immersion and made the re-immersion my parents. What happens? The child now inherits the properties of the parents. This data stream can be the parent of both the things and both will classify accordingly. Whenever there is something like an inheritance, like you have your searcher data set which has media by key and your parent data stream has media by key and media by size and media by properties. And you want your search data, which is your child, to have the media by size and media by properties. Always the classification data set will be the parent data set. Over here, the re-immersion stream is acting as a parent data set because it is acting as a classification data stream. Now what happens is if someone plots data, now someone plots visualization in accordance to this thing. What happens is Facebook re-immersion already contains the media by key and campaign keys. When I change my dates or anything, what happens is it doesn't calculate on the fly, but it already has a placeholder with the data from where it fetches data. Now it doesn't calculate anymore. It fetches data from the parent data stream. That is the advantage. And now how it works. Let's see in a pivot table. But let's do it again. This is my re-emergent data. This is my data stream, which has the extracted columns mapped as 4, 5, 6, 7. This doesn't have any measurements mapped. But my RM1 or RM2, anyone, those have the impressions and clicks metric in it. Impressions and clicks. By making re-emergent stream the parent of FBR1, what I am doing is I am slicing basically the delivery metrics of impressions and clicks with the extracted columns in the re-emergent stream 5, 6, and that's how, see, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, and this is 7, which is throwing up data in accordance to the impressions and clicks. A report can be scheduled. This is your report that you took out. Facebook Re-Emergent. See, there is scheduling status. There is no scheduler run. What you can do is you can go ahead and you can schedule your report. You can start a batch process and you can schedule your report for whatever, like, for just mention the date, whatever you want to. And in dates, you can always put an ongoing. You know what is an ongoing? Ongoing is nothing, but wherever your historical data you set till then, till yesterday, what it will do is it will take the data inside. Now, if you do an ongoing and if you do a report scheduling, that is from here, you do a report scheduling. See frequency. If you do a daily and delivery or whatever you want to choose, whatever, and your delivery method, email or something like, if you do a scheduling, what will happen is this report will run every day. And when it runs every day, if there is a change in media by key or media by name, campaign key, campaign name, whatever, what it will do is it will update it accordingly and it will be updating your report and keeping your re-immersion alive. We have successfully done the first level of re-immersion setup for ourselves. And we have done it. Now there is a second way of doing it. The second way is pretty cool because the second way is something that helps us solve a mistake that we have committed earlier. And what is that mistake called? That is called a calculated dimension, which is an easy for you to do. We fix and people tend to use it because we can use multiple formulas and in our fingertips we have everything. Now suppose we have an analyst who had worked on the calculated dimension part. And what he has done is he has already created calculated dimensions in the workspace. And he wants now that he has created multiple levels of calculated dimensions. Now he is facing the challenge of widgets not loading and widgets not loading up. Now he wants to use a re-immersion. But now think again, make it scalable for your thoughts on 100 data streams. And here I have only taken 4 calculated dimensions. Think he has created 150 dimensions. Now this guy is crude. This guy is like, things are not working, but I am at a stage whereby I'm churning bulk of data daily. And it is not possible for me to go back and do something that is already done. Can you please help me? Now, in this scenario, re-immersion again comes for help. And it tells that, dude, as you have already done this thing for yourself, let's not disrupt your process as you've already created it. And let's do something, as we know that these are part of your media by name and basically media by. These are media by attributes. Let's do something again. Go back, create a report. And now this time, what we will do is this time we are not taking media by, we are not taking out media by key media, by name campaign, key campaign name, but we are taking as now we are at a process which is running and which is churning data every day and catering to the audiences, right? The clients. Over here, what we do is we create Facebook Re-Immersion tool. In that, what we do is we take out all the calculated fields that we have done right. These were my calculated fields. Campaign name I, country I, dimension I, and year I. Right? These were the names, right? If you connect back. These were my dimensions, right? Correct. These were the calculated dimensions this guy has created and is at a first. What we do is we take out those calculated dimensions out along with the key, because these are part of the media by key, right? These are attributes of the media by key and media by name. And we take it out along with impressions and clicks. That again remains the same, and data stream again is FBRM1 and FBRM2. FBRM2. What you do is you save it off and run it. Save and run. Once you run and pull the report, this time what happens is, you see, this time we are not pulling in media by key media, by name campaign, key campaign name, but as a part of the process. What we are doing is we are pulling out all the calculated dimensions which are already present. Clear campaign RI country, RI dimension, RI year, RI. We have taken media by key and name because it is an attribute of the media by right, along with impressions and clicks. Now what we need to do is again feed it back as a data stream. We will go back to Datorama, and what we will do is we will feed it back as a new data stream. We will go back to media by key, and media by name goes to media by name. Now, what do we have? Campaign RI, country RI, dimension I, and year RI, basically the calculated dimensions that we have, and we make them as media by custom attributes because we know that these are attributes of the media by. We do map them as media by custom attributes. We don't map impressions and clicks because this is my re-immersion stream. Go ahead and save it. And once we save it, What do we need to do next? What do we do next after I've created media re-immersion data stream? We will go ahead and let me just remove this because I've already made that process. Once we change this process, what we will do is make Facebook re-immersion 2 as the parent now. If you know us, take this, cam is ready. Right now, let's look at this FT2 now has the parent as FT1 has the parent of Facebook re-immersion 2. Correct. Let's see how it looks like in a report. Why am I looking at the report? Sorry, in a paper table. Now we have 54C7. These basically now are the media by custom attributes for which the data shows up. And always in pivot table as well, I have used the re-immersion. See the data streams. While populating the pivot table, the data streams are Facebook re-immersion and the AFFP data re-immersion. These are the two ways with which we can do re-immersion. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.